Alright guys, so today I'm starting a series that I've wanted to start for a long time, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with this. But now I know where I want to go, and this series is going to be how to get started in trout fishing. Today's episode we're going to cover the equipment you're going to need to get started in trout fishing. And just to be clear, this is conventional trout fishing. Fly fishing for trout is good and all, and I know a lot of people like to do it, but I'm not qualified to teach you how to do it. I've only done it once or twice and haven't caught a single thing. So, we're sticking with conventional right now, but maybe I'll expand to fly fishing later. So, let's get into the rod and reel that you are going to need for trout fishing. And the first thing you have to decide is where are you going to try to catch your trout. Because if you're going to trout fish in lakes and ponds, you're going to want a longer rod. This is a 6'6" medium action spinning rod. Just a little spinning reel here, 8-pound line. But you're gonna want the longer rod, so 6'6". If you really need to make super long casts, go 7 foot. But if you're just making medium to long casts, go 6'6" medium action. It's got enough backbone to where you can cast far, but it also has enough sensitivity so that you can sense those fish hitting your line or taking your bait or however you want to fish. For lakes and ponds, I normally have 8-pound monofilament on, and the reason why is with monofilament, it's the best all-purpose line. You can make it float or you can make it sink. So that gives you a lot of options when it comes to choosing your lure and choosing your bait. So 8-pound monofilament, and then I'd buy a spool of 6-pound monofilament or 6-pound fluorocarbon, whichever you want, or both if you so choose, for leader. And I'll explain that in future episodes when I get into different tactics you can use to catch trout. On the other hand, if you're going to be doing most of your trout fishing in rivers and creeks and streams, you're going to want a shorter rod. So this is a 5'6" light action. This is a perfect little setup for trout fishing in creeks and rivers and streams. You want a shorter rod because you're not making those long casts to get to where the fish are in the lake. You're making shorter, more accurate, high percentage casts to the key areas where those fish are going to be in the stream. And then for the reel, I just got a little 2,000 size spinning reel. You can go 1,000 or 2,000, it doesn't really matter. But the line on there, 4 to 6 pound fluorocarbon. If you're fishing in an area where there's generally bigger trout, I'd say go to 6 pound. If you're new, especially, I'd 6 pound, just 6 pound fluorocarbon. It's easier to tie. It's got a little bit bigger diameter, and then just the trout can't see it anyway. Fluorocarbon blends in with the water, so it's harder for trout to feed. So 6-pound fluorocarbon, 4-pound fluorocarbon. The only difference between 4-pound and 6-pound is fluorocarbon is just that tiny bit more finesse, I guess. But 6-pound fluorocarbon is just fine for our purposes here. So yeah, short rod, little reel, 6-pound fluorocarbon line. Now, going into the different tackle that you may need, this is up to you, and we'll cover that in future episodes. But what you'll generally want to have, generally speaking, are some clear plastic bubbles. You'll want some clear plastic bubbles like this. You use these for casting weight, you use them as bite indicators. However you want to use them, these have many purposes, and I definitely would recommend picking up quite a few of these. I always want to have some split shot sinkers on hand. It's just little ones like this. You use these for casting weight. Use them to secure stuff. Just have some of these on hand. But also, in terms of sinkers, you're going to want egg sinkers. Let me grab an example of one of those. So here's an egg sinker, or if you want to, you can get a cone sinker. And in my opinion, they don't really make a difference. Whichever one you prefer, go for it. I also recommend having lots of snap swivels like this one here. You can use these to tie your main line to your leader, and you can use them to change out spinners and crankbaits very quickly, which is useful when the fish are hitting on one lure but they're not on another. And if you have the one that they're not hitting, you just unclip it and then reach into your tackle box, grab the pattern that's working, and clip it on, and then you're good to go. You cast it out and you have a great day. So snap swivels, always recommend having on hand. And that just basically does it for terminal tackle. I recommend having trout lures, whether you're a bait fisherman or not, whether you're a lure fisherman or not. I always recommend having lures on hand for trout fishing, and here's why. Sometimes they won't hit on bait. Sometimes they won't even hit on worms, which is saying something, because worms catch everything. If you've been fishing for a while with bait, you know that worms catch everything. So I'd recommend having a good selection of spinners. If you're a bait fisherman, you may not have to have necessarily the small jerk baits. They could be useful. I'd recommend picking a few up. But I'd say if you're a beginner and you're looking for a good spinner, Mepps spinners. Again, not sponsored, but I've used these things for years and they always work. They're super easy to use, very good quality, very well built, and their action is just unbeatable, whether you're fishing in a lake or in a stream. Mepps spinner is the way to go. But if you'd like to expand your horizons a little bit, let's see, Panther Martin makes good spinners. You see they got a different type of blade, so they spin more erratically, which can be good. I've found these to be good in rivers and streams. Little Panther Martin spinners. They come in all kinds of thousands of different colors and shapes and sizes. Let's see, Rooster Tail makes good ones. I found these to be more useful in recent months, even. Just another good quality erratic spinner. And then one that's not really talked about, I've noticed, is Blue Fox. I've been quite skeptical of Blue Fox, but I haven't really tried it before, and some of their lures are just super good. Sometimes you do have to twitch the rod a little bit to get the spinner blade to engage, but once it's spinning, it works super well, and it's got this unique bell shape where it vibrates, the lure vibrates as it spins, which is really, really cool. And we've caught some nice fish on this. You can see that the damage on the spinner was done by a trout. They do have teeth, and that fish that attacked the spinner hit it quite hard. That about does it for spinners. If you're fishing really small streams where the fish are super, super finicky, I don't know if I can find one here, but, oh, here's one. These are Joe's Fly spinners, and the cool thing about Joe's Fly spinners is they've got this snap on the bottom of the shaft that you can change out your fly on. So I've customized my spinners by changing out these flies and stuff, but you get the idea. It's a spinner with a little fly, and then the ones that they come with have a little stinger hook, trailer hook on the back, just so that fish stays on. But they come in different sizes. They don't cast very far, which is why I just mainly recommend them in smaller streams, or if you're fishing in a lake, you have that extra casting weight, you can get it out there and reel it in. But a cool concept here from Joe's Flies. That does it for spinners, and now we move into small crankbaits, or what most people would call jerkbaits. I use them as crankbaits. I just cast them out, reel them in, and they have a good action that way. But I've also used them as jerkbaits, where you twitch the rod to give the lure more action. So we're gonna get into those. My favorite colors for jerkbaits are brown trout, right here. I've got quite a few clumped up here, and rainbow trout. Got one here. Now, if you're primarily fishing for rainbow trout, I would recommend the brown trout lures, regardless if they're brown trout or not, because this just imitates all. This can imitate all kinds of things. Brown trout, crawfish, maybe if it's close enough to the bottom, just all kinds of bait fish and what have you. But just works super well. I've used these for a few years now. Big fan. The brown trout ones work great for rainbow trout, and then the rainbow trout ones I'd only really use if you're primarily fishing for brown trout, or if you're going to fish for brown trout at some point. But they work really good for brown trout, and also the brown trout ones work for brown trout because brown trout are cannibals. So you can use the brown trout crankbaits or the rainbow trout crankbaits to catch brown trout. I don't think I've ever caught a rainbow trout on a rainbow trout crankbait. I could be wrong on that, but from what I've noticed, I haven't. So if you're primarily fishing for rainbow trout, and rainbow trout are the most common trout species in North America, I recommend getting the brown trout crankbaits, or just a plain gold or silver works as well. But that about does it for the equipment that you're going to need to get started in trout fishing. We talked about rod, reel, line, and a few of the different lures, terminal tackle. So if you like this series and you're excited for more, please leave a like. If you'd like to see more cool videos, tutorials, and fishing adventures, I also do a few vlog series, stuff like that. Please go ahead and subscribe, and I think that about wraps it up. So I'll see you guys in the next episode.